When the Viking knocked down the Japanese samurai, his axe hummed on Samurai's head, and Samurai kneeled on the ground as a thundering yell came out from the Viking's mouth. The sounds of bone being crushed and the blood splashed on the ground. Samurai's head had been separated from his body. This extremely brutal execution can be recognized easily in the game For Honor. The effect of video games violence be more than we can expect. When we are playing it, we will usually forget everything we get into the games. The world in our eyes get more violent. From the start, video games don't really contain violence, like porn. Since the 1980s, video gaming had become a popular form of entertainment and a part of modern popular culture in most parts of the world. One of the early games was Space War. Space Wars was developed by computer scientists. Early video games developed from 1972 to 1978 seems fun to play. According to the graphic and the technology at that time, they only can have black and white showing on the screen. At first, the gaming company didn't mean to make a game to harm any human being. But as the technology and the graphic and the amount of people was offering more and more games, they have to become more attractive. According to Film Media Group, Game On, inside the video games industry, during the 1980s, Sega and Nintendo had made a kind of Street Fighter games, and all of the execution for player to kill another player are so brutal. But Nintendo realized that and made a legendary game, Super Mario, which is so popular. And they even turned the blood from red to green. Although Nintendo and Sega have changed their games and try not to be so violent, still Sega and Nintendo got legal trouble in 1993. The results are a rating system for video games. Although there are rating systems for video games, the developing speed for video games are growing even faster. In the modern day, video games and virtual reality are more popular than ever. The kind of type of gaming is starting to be developed even more than ever. But some video games with violence are also beginning to be the most popular type of game for people to play and enjoy. Now, in all those gaming that we love to play must contain a bit violence in the game. Lots of the teenagers and the children can't control themselves on this type of game. There are even some youth violence showing up. The very first violence caused by video games was happening in 1986. According to the article of Brian Poe, a assess hook on video games like Dark Souls. Teens auditions with violence, detectives quiz people's witnesses. Tragic stab teachers was due to retire in 5 months. A boy suspected of stabbing teachers Anne Maguire to death was hooked on violence online video games. It was claimed in April 29, 2014. His friends say he's also heavily into games such as Assassin's Creed, the Call of Duty series, and the Grand Theft Auto, and will spend hours playing them. As the result, the power of the influence on video games was horrible. According to Adam Ferrer, the president of the Progress and Freedom Foundation, he had been studying on sales of video games compared to youth violence in Texas, USA. From 1996 to 2005, the youth violence went down by 54%. In 1996, the series of youth violence crime was 35 times per year. And in 2005, the series of youth violence crime was 19 times per year. As the result, children and teenagers should not be playing this kind of video games, although the video games are causing youth violence. It had been showing down a bit from 1996 to 2005. The selling of these types of video games are still popular. The interesting things for violence caused by video games was when the new violence video games come out, there will be 0.3 less violence happening on the world. And also, when a new violence movie come out, there will be 1.1 less violence happen in the world. The reason caused this because When these movies and the video games are coming out, those people who have very aggressive thinking will not be outside. They will be playing these new games and watch these new movies. Each time, the peak point of the sales of the violent video games is the lowest point when this crime is happening in the country.
However, the rate of the crime that happen during the new violent video games and the movie is lower. But when the games have been finished and the movies are under the heat, the rate will slowly come up again. So, is the violence caused by the violent video games couldn't be stopped? No, there must be a solution. First of all, we can let people play other games, like something does not contain any violence, some games which contain happy and fun element in it. Secondly, we can let the government to deal with it, which is set a new law about the rate of the games that children and teenagers can play. So not just a rating system for the games which companies themselves have, but the government also need one. It will be needed for people to have their passport with them to buy this rating game in the future. As the time of the video games are coming up and slowly out of the range which children and teenagers should play, governments have to do something. It is time to stop all this violence which happen on the children and teenagers. They are still growing up. Use the words of Polar Kyle. The fact, however, is that gaming is not targeted at children. It's not even targeted at teenagers. The average age of gamer, according to the Entertainment Software Association, is 30. So, let's get aware of that. Aware of the power of video games.